everybody. Yeah. Everybody needs to see the video of Hillary Clinton stumbling as she's getting into the car. If you don't see the video, nothing that happens from here on out is going to make any sense to you. So go to Twitter, go to the internet, find the video of Hillary Clinton stumbling. Now, if you look at that video and say to yourself, well, maybe she just lost a shoe, you might want to ask yourself why there's a report that they didn't put the shoe in the car with her when they put her in the car. So I'm not going to buy the shoe part. But in any event, it's not going to be terribly important what the real medical problem was. All that's going to matter is where it happened and when it happened. Because you just watched your commander-in-chief, wannabe, have a fainting spell at the site of the biggest attack on the American homeland. Had it been anywhere else, at any other time, possibly recoverable. So, what I'm saying is, if Clinton had an overheating attack, let's say it is nothing, no big deal. You know, let's say it's just something normal and it looked more than it was. If she had that sort of normal episode anywhere else at any other time, maybe it's recoverable. You know, there's a lot of rumors about her health. So this would be more confirmation bias. So it wouldn't be easy to recover from this, right? Under normal circumstances. But once you contrast it and, you know, you put it on the site of 9/11, on the actual anniversary of 9/11, and your potential commander-in-chief literally just faints. Again, I don't wish her ill, even if she wishes me ill, which is entirely possible. But just the facts are, from a persuasion perspective, it's probably impossible to recover from this, because it's one thing to say, I had a coughing attack when I was on stage at some event that wasn't terribly important. You know, it's another thing to say, you know, it was a normal day and I had the flu. All of those would be no big deal. But when your knees actually literally buckle and you have to be carried into your car with whatever medical problem that is, at the 911 or 9/11 memorial service on the actual day of the anniversary, you don't recover from that. So even if you recover from your medical problems, which I'm watching the pundits on CNN just before I turn this on, I saw what's his name, Bakari is his name, one of the surrogates for Trump, and I swear he looked like he was tearing up, because I think he knows it's over. And he did his best to say, well, you know, her only two problems have been she coughed and she got overheated that one time. So, you know, let's put this in perspective. And if we were a reasonable, rational species, it would make sense to wait for all the facts, and if it's a minor condition, you know, she's been working pretty hard, probably doesn't sleep a lot. People have minor conditions at that age. So if we were a rational species, we could wait for all those details and then make our rational decision how we feel about it. But we're not. We're not rational. What we saw was our potential commander-in-chief literally faint at the site of the biggest attack on our homeland, on the anniversary of it, in front of the subjects she's trying to protect. Now, I didn't see a leader protecting people there. I saw the people protecting the leader, literally. It was it took a village to get her into the car. I'm not joking about that. I just mean that there were tons of people who were gathered around to even just keep her alive. So to think that she's the one who's going to be protecting you, again, I'm not making a rational argument here. I'm not trying to. I'm just saying that from a persuasion perspective, you can no longer imagine her to be your protector, because the visuals on this are just too powerful. Yeah, the optics at this point are pretty much it's the end of the race. And by the way, it's going to take a long time for the media to catch up and realize that. The polls probably won't even necessarily reflect it if they've been average over the last week or so. So don't expect to see it, tomorrow. But well and certainly the election is over. The exception would be if Trump decided to go risky and do something crazy. But now it's over. She looked like she lost muscle control. Well, it would be easy for us to act like doctors, and it did look like that, of course. But if she was also losing consciousness, it would look the same. So let's not be doctors and try to overdiagnose her with Parkinson's or anything specific, because it's not impossible that she just overheated. Right? It's not impossible. I'm just saying it doesn't matter. Because what it looks like is what's going to matter, and what it looked like is she's not the person to protect the country, because she literally fell apart at the site of the biggest attack on our homeland on the anniversary of it. There's no way you get past that. I think there was a point in this race where I was saying that Clinton's attack on Trump were just super weapons grade good stuff, because the racist accusation is about as good as you can get in terms of power. It just touches every hot button in her psyche, in her national mind, in her social consciousness, our tribal instincts. It's just the most powerful thing you can do is call somebody a racist in 2016. And it would have been hard to imagine a direct, any kind of direct counter to that would be more powerful than that. So Trump had been doing what made sense, which is to simply try to chip away at it by simply being a more reserved candidate, doing some outreach, saying less outrageous things, and acting less like a racist. But you have to chip away at that, a little bit, 1% a week sort of thing as time's running out. I didn't imagine there was anything that could make a racist look good. But, and I'm not saying this makes a racist look good, but in terms of the contrast, if you're going to say, who do you want in charge of the country when the shit goes down, you want the one who's conscious. Even if you have deep reservations about his personal leanings, you kind of trust the country to take care of the rest of that. But you need the person who's awake. You want 55 years old. Yeah, 55 would be a good age for a president. What about Stein and Johnson? I wrote recently that both Jill Stein and Gary Johnson are a place that people are parking their vote as sort of a protest. And also so they don't have to answer when people say who you're voting for. They don't have to answer honestly. Quite a number of people have told me privately and on Twitter, and this is anecdotal, of course, but since I don't hear other stories, it's notable that all the anecdotal stories I hear are all the same one. People saying, I tell people that I'm voting for Gary Johnson, so I don't have to say I'm voting for Trump. So that's a thing. We don't know how big it is, but it's a thing, because I've personally talked to a number of people who say that exact thing. And generally, if you have people saying the same thing, independently, you're not asking the question, they're just coming to you and saying the same thing. Psst, I'm saying I'm voting for Gary Johnson, but I'm really hiding my vote for Trump. That's usually, not always, but usually an indication that there are a lot more of them out there. Because I wasn't asking the question. People were just telling me independently, and they were telling me the same stuff. So I think it's a real thing. Yeah, you're in California, so you have to say Jill Stein. Well, my idea was that there might be more Clinton people claiming they support Stein and more Trump people claiming they support Gary Johnson. And that might be some latent sexism working in both directions in that case. Did somebody ask if I think Trump will win? You must have just signed on. You should look at the news today. Yeah, the election is essentially over today because of today's events. And that's not even counting her comment about the baskets of deplorables, which, by the way, I don't think was going to be the biggest thing in the world. I think it might have moved the needle 1%, although that's a pretty big deal if you have a race this close. But by itself, it wouldn't be the difference. But her stumbling today and what looked like losing either body control or consciousness at the 911 site at the day of the anniversary is just the end of the road for someone who wants to be the commander-in-chief. You don't recover from that. Yeah, CNN's playing the video. I'll tell you my favorite moment. I was going to take a screen grab from my TV. Now, you all know that Jake Tapper has been in the middle of history here. So he's been one of the most important voices in the media, interviewing both the candidates. And most people would say that CNN and its hosts are pro-Clinton, and you could certainly make a case for that. But here I'm watching Jake just a few minutes ago interviewing his panel, including Bakari Sellers. I hope I'm saying his name right. And he's one of the, I would say, most effective Clinton surrogates. He's always on there. And this poor guy had to defend this as not a big deal and say, well, she was just overheated this time and she's coughed before. And then they zoom, and this is actually really good directing on CNN's part. Say what you will about CNN, but this next moment was fantastic TV. And so this is like a shout out to the production crew and whoever was directing. They immediately switched to an over-the-shoulder shot so that you were seeing the back of Bakari's, I hope I'm saying his name right, Bakari's head while he's talking to Jake. And you're seeing Jake. I'll try to do an impression of him because he's trying to look objective, I'm sure, but he's listening to his guest tell him that this video that they're all watching of Clinton actually collapsing at the 911 site in the context of a lot of people questioning her health already. And you're looking at Jake listening to his excuse how these are minor things like coughing and a little overheating. And Jake just has his head, I think, imperceptibly tilted a little bit. And he's giving this look like, now I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I've never seen a more skeptical look on a human's being face than listening to Bakari tell him that this was no big deal. Because I think Jake knows that this is the end of the road for Clinton. I think they all know. So there's probably no one in the media who doesn't know it at this point. It's going to take a while for the general public to figure it out. But the people in the media, they already know. Can Godzilla help? No, there's nothing they can do unless Trump does something unexpectedly worse than anything he's done before. And you could expect, there's a few weeks left, he may say something that's questionable, but it's hard to see him going beyond. Do you think Trump will drop out? No, of course not. Yeah, she went to Chelsea's apartment because they couldn't take her to the hospital. And let me ask you this. How close is Chelsea's apartment? I'm sure it was close. How close was the hospital? Your candidate for president just collapsed in public. Do you take that candidate to a private residence where the adequacy of the medical equipment is whatever someone can bring with them? Plus, they probably do travel with they probably do travel with quite a bit, but they're not going to travel with a CAT scan if you need one, or the big equipment. So let me ask you, don't you think that going to Chelsea's apartment is a cover story for probably something worse? Because if she had really just gone to Chelsea's apartment and now she's fine, just like the reporting, what's the next thing you do if you're fine? You walk to the steps of Chelsea's apartment, and where there will be every camera in the world, and you say, "Oh my God, I was really hot. So thanks everybody for worrying. Hey, I'm doing fine. Just needed a glass of water, put my feet up. I am 69. Haha." That's what you would do. Okay? You wore a suit on an airplane and thought of me. That's a good callback. Thank you for reading my book. She just did that? Did she? Seriously? Literally, she just did that. Oh, okay, well, that's what you do. Is that video up now? About an hour ago. Did she look, was she standing, what was the circumstance of her coming out and doing that? Was she standing or leaning? Was she holding on to anything? So she walked all the way out into public? She came out smiling, but was she holding on to anything? Standing and waving. So she was standing unaided, and did she look fine to you? Staff was holding her up. She walked by herself, walked a van. So they put her in the van like they were taking her somewhere? Oh, sunglasses on. Well, it's a sunny day. Not holding on. Oh, okay. So she walked under her power. So it's entirely possible that it was, she just fainted from being too hot. Totally possible. I'm not making any assumptions about this being related to any kind of larger medical problem. I don't think there's evidence to make that leap yet. But obviously, it's not something that's going to hospitalize her right away, at least as far as we know at this point. Yeah, you do imagine that there's probably some kind of shot. You imagine this like a movie backstage, and it will be a movie. It's going to be a movie. And you imagine the private scene where the doctors are saying, "We've got to get you to the hospital right now," because I'm sure there's a doctor on site. And Hillary's saying, "No, the optics are bad. Give me a shot of anything that'll wake me up for 5 minutes. Give me the adrenaline," or whatever the hell you give people. Second video angle of the stumble. Steroid or cortisone. Does any of that stuff, do any shots give you instant energy and the ability to stand up? Cocaine. Meryl Streep to play Hillary Clinton. Huh. I can see it. You know what Trump's best response should be? He should show concern. He should be a human being. But I think it's also fair to say something like, it would also be fair to say he doesn't want to talk politics on 9/11, which would be brilliant, by the way. Actually, that would be the smartest thing that Trump could do right now, is to say, well, we don't have all the information. You'll need to talk to Clinton to get that. But for today, we're thinking about the victims of 9/11. That's how I would play it. I would just stay the hell out of that. I wouldn't pile on. But remember, he's Trump, so Trump might say something, but it wouldn't be the smart play. The smart play would be to say, let's keep our focus on 9/11, and tomorrow Clinton and her team can tell you more about whatever's going on today. Send a private message. They would never report it. It wouldn't make any difference. Really? She will not be able to handle debates. Well, everybody's going to be asking that question. One of the reasons before we start thinking about conspiracy theories, let's think economics. So I know a little bit about the news business and a little bit about economics. So one of the reasons that you might not be seeing much coverage, as much as you would imagine, coverage of Hillary's health mishap there, is that they probably gave everybody the day off. Not everybody, obviously, but they probably have a light staff because they knew that the news today would be nothing but 9/11 stuff. And that's either canned or it's just aiming a camera at something and a couple of talking heads. So they might be lightly staffed today. It's entirely possible that they would be doing more on a regular weekday than they are on a Sunday that they thought was going to be a no news day. Yeah, they're all on call, but it just might take a while for people to, leave the beach and get to wherever they need to be. Called in. There's a picture on Drudge. Due to low coverage, yeah. Well, thank you. Where were you on 9/11? I'll tell you. I was at my house in Danville, and I had just gotten up and I was getting my coffee, much like I did today. And I turned on the TV, as I often did, and I saw that the first tower was on fire and they were starting to cover it. And like everybody at the time, it looked like an accident, a terrible accident, but an accident. And as I was drinking my coffee and watching the TV, I watched the second plane hit the second tower. So I saw it live in a sense. I don't know how many people saw that live, but seeing it live was not like seeing it recorded, let me tell you, because you didn't have to wait for somebody to explain it to know we were under attack at that point. And so that's when my world changed. I didn't need to hear the news tell me what was happening. Yeah, I say Black Hawk because Black Hawk is technically a community within Dublin, or Danville, I mean. You saw it live in Germany? Yeah. You saw it at the airport live also? Oh yeah, that's probably, actually, as I'm thinking about it, there probably were a lot of people who saw it live because they would have heard about the first one and turned it on. So probably more people saw, which is, I hate to call it genius, but it was part of the genius of the attack, is that it came in two parts so that people would get to watch the second part live. It's very similar to when they do the two bombs, the first one to get the responders, and then the second one kills the responders. Watch NFL to see who sits. Nobody's going to sit today. Here's my prediction. Nobody's going to sit today. Nobody's going to sit today. Won't happen. And anybody who sits today, anybody who sits out the national anthem on the 15th anniversary of 9/11 is kind of done in this country. I do respect Kaepernick for sitting out, a normal day. That's part of freedom of speech. And if somebody feels that strongly about something and they're a fellow citizen, I'm willing to listen. But if anybody sits down today on the anniversary of 9/11, that's not communicating. That's just something else, and you wouldn't be able to respect that. Cernovich still breathing. Cernovich. I've never been on Howard Stern. Yeah, I saw Kirsten Powers trying to minimize this. And here's the thing, like I said, she can minimize it, and she might be entirely right. It might be entirely worthy of being minimized. Because you saw that, lost, yeah, he did lose. Trump is essentially running unopposed at this point, because it doesn't matter how bad Hillary's medical problems are. As I was saying earlier, when you literally faint on the site of the biggest attack in the American, our memory, at the site of our biggest fears, terrorism, and you're running for the job of commander-in-chief, that's not a recoverable error. So the election is essentially over today. No, I don't think she'll drop out. Not at all. The Trump campaign will almost have to respond, because otherwise they just get pecked to death. But I think if they do respond, it should be something along the lines of either, direct your questions to the Clinton campaign. Today we're thinking about the 9/11 stuff. The most he should say, and I think it would be a mistake, is to say something like, the public needs to consider her readiness for the job or something like that. But I think it would be tacky today. And not that he hasn't done tacky things and gotten away with it, but just today's not the day, right? Today's the day to stay classy. So if Trump wants to be president, it's his to give away now. I mean, he just has to act like a little bit of a president for the next few weeks, and he's going to walk into the office with a landslide, I think. Maybe Trump should visit her in the hospital. I don't think that'll happen. I mean, not because it's a good or bad idea, but because there's no way Clinton would allow it. You just woke up, go to the internet and look for the video of Hillary Clinton collapsing as she's being led out of the 9/11 ceremony. Condolences? No. I don't think you send condolences because her story is still that it was no big deal. Well, you're watching me. That's far more important than whatever else you could be doing right now. Will the video be used in attack ads this October? No, because they'll be in attack ads in about an hour. You know that somebody is stringing together all the coughing and the fainting and the medical headlines. So that's happening right now. Hello from Minnesota. Landslide could mean different things to different people. In this context, Originally when I called a landslide, I was thinking popular vote. And it probably will still be a landslide in popular vote. And I was defining that as 65-35. Of course, that was before it was a 4-person race, so you can modify that a little bit by the other people in the race. But now I think the electoral landslide will be the one people talk about, and I suppose they should. That's the one that makes more sense. So he'll come close to winning. I don't know what states he would not win at this point. So there might be maybe California he won't win. Scale 1 to 10, how bad is her health? It's sort of a timing issue, isn't it? I mean, everybody's heading toward death. She looks, just visually, without the benefit of any medical training, I'm watching the same things you're looking at. She doesn't look healthy to me, but that doesn't mean it's the kind of problem that makes you die tomorrow. She just doesn't look healthy. You're at the beach and you're about to scope. Think you'll win New York? Yeah, hand on head. It's possible. I mean, after today, it's possible. Could a Hillary replacement win? I don't know the legality of any of that stuff. Can you just put in a replacement just because you want to? Wouldn't that replacement have to go through some part of the process to be eligible? I don't know. Can they legally replace her at this point? I don't know that you can do that and still get on the ballot. It seems a little too late. Will they delay the election? No, they're not going to delay the election. Do you have confidence in Kane? I don't know much about him, frankly. How can I predict electoral votes if I haven't looked into it? Well, based on the news today, I think she's in people's minds. Forget about reality and forget about facts. But I think after today, in people's minds, Clinton is no longer a commander-in-chief material because she fainted on the site of the 9/11, the symbol of the worst attack on our homeland. What does she claim is recovery? Well, she will claim recovery. I think that's a given. So, what I don't think is that this was the sign of something that will hospitalize her until she dies. I don't think that's happening. So, yeah, she will certainly claim recovery. But it doesn't change anything. Did any of you see the video of her, might have been yesterday, but the one where she was standing in front of the flags and people were saying that she was low energy? And when I say people, I mean only people on the alt-right and the anti-Hillary people. But I saw it and she looked not healthy. She was just sort of talking like this. Her energy was down, but she was trying, even though her energy was down. A British reporter said it, and then he was accused of sexism, right? Something like that. But you look at it, and by the way, here's a question for the women. So we've got 1,000 people on here. So a bunch of you are women. I know most of you are men, but there's probably 100 women or so. So this is a question for just the women. There are days when yesterday, I guess, when Clinton was talking in her low energy way, that her hair was also not as done up. And I don't know if that means it's a don't wash your hair day. It's overslept. I couldn't do as much with it. So I want somebody who's a woman who understands hair, or I guess a man who understands women's hair, to explain to me why some days she allows her hair to look bad as if no effort had been put into it. Is that something that you have to do? Is that something you have to do because you got to let your hair rest? So you can't have it fluffed up all the time. Stylist off. No, it's a serious question. I'm not making fun of her hairstyle, which I think, because I've said before, I'm not the guy who's going to make fun of her hair or her clothing, because given what she has to work with, her age and her body type, I think she does a really good job with both of those things, style-wise and hair-wise. I think she does really well, like A+, I would say, because, you have to grade that stuff on a curve. But the reason I'm asking why she has some days where her hair looks less done is the message it's sending, especially on a low-energy speech like the one that people thought she had yesterday, is that it gives the appearance that she couldn't get up in time, or that she just didn't have the energy to do basic hygiene. Now, I am not claiming that to be the case. I'm talking, again, only about persuasion, and I'm saying that the public in general, they don't know what's up with her hair, why sometimes it looks pretty good, and then sometimes it looks like she just rolled out of bed and, like rubbed some yogurt on it and slicked it back. It looks like she didn't have the energy to do her hair right. I'm a woman, I can say that. So, women who are watching this, give me your opinion. The days that her hair is not done, and she's just sort of, it looks dirty and just kind of combed back, is that something you have to do once in a while? So anybody would do the same thing if they were seen every day? Is it something you just have to do to keep your hair healthy? Once in a while, give it a day off? Or do you only do that if you run out of time? You don't have to do that. No, Cowlick. No, not at all. No, hell no. No excuse for that, no. And these are the women answering this. Okay. Does anybody disagree? Is that just universally true? All right. So then do you see, just perceptually, again, this is for the women, but I guess the men can answer this as well. On her bad hair days, does it look like she didn't have the energy, or she hadn't planned well, or she overslept? Is that the message you're getting? That she looks either overworked or underslept or something? Is that the weather? Weather could be a factor, right? So there'd be some days where your hair doesn't cooperate. Oh, so okay. So, all right, now you're changing your vote. So before when I was asking, is there any reason to have your hair look, less processed, if it will? Some days, humidity. Okay. So is that a good enough reason? Let me ask the question. The days that, for just the women who know hair, or the men who know hair of women, are there some days where you can't make it look good because of humidity or whatever, and so you just don't do it? You go for a simpler look? No way, no. Not with products, no. All right, so you're still saying there's no excuse for her hair not to look good every day, given that she has staff to do anything she needs to do, right? Yeah. So isn't that an indication of some problem? If you're speaking low energy and you didn't have time to even do your hair? It's not like she doesn't know when a speech is coming up. It's not like she can't, take phone calls and take meetings while somebody's doing her hair, because she doesn't have to do the hard part herself, right? She can sit in a chair where somebody's just fussing with her while she's talking to her advisors and stuff. So really, it's not even how much time you have, unless you overslept. All right. It makes her hair frizzy, not flat and stuck to the head. Okay. I'm starting to feel sorry for her. I actually do. I literally do feel sorry for her right now. Yeah, overslept is your guess. Yeah, that's what I think. Was it the veteran speech? That was the one she was low energy. So it turns out she doesn't have an earpiece. Although there was that WikiLeaks memo referring to it. So what is it? You know what? the WikiLeaks memo talking about the earpiece, it might be that she has a custom earpiece for what's called the IFB. The IFB is the thing that the news people put in your ear so you can hear the broadcast when they're talking to you. And they give you the same one that the last guest used. So this is literally true. When I was appearing on when I appear on satellite, they'll stick that thing in my ear, and the first thing I think is, whose ear was that in before mine? So it's entirely possible that the WikiLeaks was talking about just bringing her own custom earpiece, one that fits better, one that hasn't been in somebody else's ears, and maybe even less of a security risk. Because I don't know, do you not see how asshole-ish the question about hair is? No, I don't see that at all. In fact, I think you're a complete idiot if you think that talking about her hair is a sexist comment. Because I'm asking the question to women and saying, hey, women, what are the reasons that sometimes your hair would not be taken care of? I mean, because look at Trump's hair. He's the only candidate we've had whose hair looks as impractical as the most impractical woman's hair. So in this dimension, you have a perfect comparison. Trump looks like somebody does his hair every day. Some days are better, but it always looks like somebody did it, right? And there are days when she doesn't look like she had her hair done. There's no way that isn't relevant. So you can come up with your outrageism and your fake complaints about sexism, but it doesn't fly anymore. And by the way, if there's a perfectly good reason for it, that's why I'm asking the question. All right. His orange face. She could go shorter. Yeah. What was that little message that just popped up? Should Trump shave his head? It depends what's under there. No reason at this point. Yes, good reasons, and I could list the possible. Do that. We're listening. So stop being part of the problem. If there are reasonable reasons why her hair would sometimes look unprepared, just tell us. Every one of us is listening to. She could decide it's healthier not to wash hair daily. That would be me. That was exactly the question I asked here. All right? Did you sign in late? That was exactly the question I asked. I'm asking the women on here to back you up. So they're all on here. You can read the answers themselves. I'm not even making an opinion on that. So these are other women. So other women, is there a reason to not wash the hair just to keep it healthier? Older women, so if her hair is older. She might want to wear it differently every day. She might, but some of the looks we see don't look like the kind you would choose, if you know what I mean. Did you go away? Okay. So but whether or not, so whether or not there's a good reason, like it's just healthier for the hair, which, by the way, I'm not ruling out, because that was why I asked the question, is I thought that some women sometimes have to rest their hair. I thought that was a thing. But it doesn't matter. If the day that she's low energy is also the day that she's resting her hair, and it looks a little flat too, I'm 70, no reason, then that's a bad set of optics. You don't want your low energy to match your low energy hair at the same time. That would be a lot of confirmation bias packed into one day. Resting hair is BS. Yeah, I was married. So they do rest their hair every 2 to 3 days, but they live in a dry climate in winter. What about Nassim? What was Nassim's comment that you want me to comment on? What was his comment? Persuasion sucked. He didn't say it sucked. If you saw Taleb's comment on the book Persuasion, he said that if you were familiar with your 14th century thinkers, there's nothing new in there. And I'm guessing he's completely right about that, because if I were going to suggest someone might know what 14th century thinkers thought, Taleb might be the guy. But that has nothing to do with the quality of the book. A book is about getting a certain message to a specific audience. And the specific audience is, people who read English, at least in the first edition. And for the most part, we're not familiar with the works of 14th century thinkers. So to us, it's all new. People made similar comments to my book, God's Debris, because I've got some pseudo-philosophy in there in the context of fiction. And a lot of people said, hey, there's nothing new there. If you've taken, for anybody who's taken Philosophy 101, there's nothing new. To which my comment was, how many people have taken Philosophy 101? I mean, what kind of tiny bubble do you live in where you think that's a common experience? In my circles, it's a totally common experience, because I hang around with people who went to liberal arts colleges. But the average person hasn't taken a Philosophy 101 class, so how does that say my book is a bad idea? Because if in the unlikely event you've taken a philosophy class, what percentage of the public has taken a philosophy class? 5%, maybe? So therefore, I'm pretty sure my book is still okay for 95%. So it's the same argument with persuasion. If you're in the 0.001% who have studied the great thinkers since the 14th century, you can skip that book. Although I don't think that they did as many controlled scientific studies. Now, there's a separate question about whether the studies in psychology are valid. And to that point, I would defer. Psychology in general is bullshit. Well, does that mean that the behavioral studies are bullshit? Because if you can check your right eye, conjunctivitis, if you can, taking about hair's extremely specific context is sexist now. Yeah, everything's sexist now. Well, young is probably bullshit, but yeah, behavioral economics and behavioral psychology seem like easy enough to test, right? The thing is that persuasion is built on actual studies. Now, I have no doubt that some or many of those studies will be revised, updated, overturned, but probably at this point in history, the majority of them are probably right. Why did they throw her in the car? To protect her. Somebody's going to have to find out the legalities and the practicality of replacing a candidate at this late date. My common sense tells me there's too much paperwork, eligibility, that it just can't be done. They ran over her shoe. And I don't think anybody knows the answer to that question, right? In modern history, 60 days you can do it. Yeah, I've Googled the stories on. So if you haven't seen them, let me couch this as conspiracy theories because they're not backed by better information. But there are reports that cocaine can cause Parkinson's symptoms, if not Parkinson's itself. I don't know if there's a difference between having all the symptoms and actually having it, or if that's a difference without a distinction or something, distinction without a difference. But there's good evidence that the Clintons both had a little cocaine around them, and it would be weird if they both had Parkinson's unless they were doing the same cocaine and they got the same effect. So I have no reason to believe that either one of them have Parkinson's. And furthermore, I have no reason to believe any credible evidence that if they did, it would be caused by cocaine. But that's the rumor on the internet. And by the way, as conspiracy rumors go, it's a real good one. Meaning, I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying it like, just persuasion-wise, it sure looks true. But that's why persuasion. That's why conspiracy theories work. By the way, I just tweeted right before I got on. Oh my God, I'm looking at Leon Panetta. He's talking about just 15 years after 9/11. And look at the faces of the Clinton surrogates today, no matter what they're talking about. This may be confirmation bias, but I'm seeing they look like somebody in their family just died, as in their hopes and dreams. And I mean, they're acting serious because, is he crying? Yeah, I mean, they're talking about obviously a serious subject, but you wouldn't expect them to be crying 15 years after. Oh, so I was going to say that somebody forwarded me a clip of Trump, and I can't tell how long ago it was. It's not terribly recent, so it's, I don't know, it could be 20 years old. It might be 10 years old. I don't know, but it's not recent. So it's not recent. But Trump himself is saying that he doesn't have much, but he's persuasive. So he has persuasion, and that he's something about his power of persuasion. And I thought, there it is. He's used the word himself. So I tweeted that. If you want to see the clip yourself, just go to my Twitter feed. Why you spread garbage, yo? Well, I spread it as confirmation bias and as conspiracy theory, so I'm labeling it what it is. But once those things are out there, they are part of fact. In other words, the story is fact, even if the truth behind it is not. So you have to deal with at least the story as being a fact at this point. Yeah, why spread to begin with? I'm talking about something that's already spread. So, ethically speaking, I would prefer not to be the spreader of things. But once they're out there, you got to kind of talk about them. So I make more of the false part of the story. What part is false that I said, that I didn't say was not credible? All right, I'm going to block you for not being helpful. Goodbye, Debbie Dot. No, I quit playing tennis. Now I only do what I call monkey exercises. I do exercises that a monkey would do, meaning exercise my arms and my core and climbing steps and stuff, but I don't run 10 miles because monkeys don't do that. And monkeys don't play tennis. Lots of repetitive injuries. Do I have a rock wall? No. There's one at the gym. I am a glorified monkey. I look like a movie star? Thanks. Are you rationalizing your opinion? Of course. That's what we're all doing. So that's my whole thing. My whole thing is that I rationalize my decisions, as do everyone. As does everyone. As do we all. I haven't gone to the gym yet. That's on my future. Never boxed or played hockey. Too dangerous. Well, hockey wasn't really an option because I wasn't around ice when I was young. Except the outdoor kind, and we didn't really play hockey. Thank you. You saw the Rubin report? Do you think we're going to war with North Korea? No. Boxing is not dangerous. You know, a sport that involves being punched in the head, I'm going to say I'm no doctor. Probably not good for you. We're already talking about re-election. I'll go out on a limb, and I'm going to say that I don't know that Trump will run for re-election. I think he might be one and done. No, I said I was around outdoor ice, but it wasn't often safe enough or plentiful enough for having a hockey culture. And riven to cause, I hope you're using riven correctly. Yeah, so let's imagine that you're Trump and you say, hey, here's my deal. I said I can do things quickly. I'm going to do it all in 4 years so that I'm a lame duck on day one, which would really help him. Because once he's a lame duck, he doesn't have to worry about raising money, getting reelected, saying the right stuff. And he could just be a badass for 4 years, and it would be awesome. But he also might say, hey, why would I settle for 4 when I can have 8? I don't think we can predict that at this point. But I would say that he would be one candidate you would think would consider a 4-year term. And the public might think that was a smart idea, and it might actually help him. But it could work the other way, too. You don't know. Sure, I'll be your dad. Well, the polls that include the Clinton collapsing, whatever, I don't know what it's going to be called yet. I don't think it's going to be called the overheating. These things tend to get a name. So it's, I think she's going to collapse in the polls the same way. Oh, Clinton collapse? Yeah, Clinton collapse makes the most sense because it's literal and figurative. So I better go do some other things. I really do like talking on here. Buckled knees poll, faint gait. Trump's definitely not going to release his tax returns. If there's anything we can guarantee today, that's not happening. Because it wouldn't make sense for him to release his tax returns and give people other things to talk about. They've already talked to death the fact that he hasn't released them. So saying yet more times, hey, you haven't released them, and then followed up by, hey, you still haven't released them. The power of that, and it never had much power because it doesn't have much emotional appeal to us. It's sort of stuff that accountants do. The appeal of that is just getting weaker every day. So the longer he goes without releasing them, the less important it will be, even in our own minds. And at this point, the election's essentially over because of Clinton's unfortunate health episode today, the timing of it and the place of it, and the fact that it was on camera. So Trump doesn't need to do anything except what he's doing and not acting like a racist. So he doesn't have to make any big gestures. He doesn't have to promise anything anymore. I mean, it might be nice if he did, if there were minor things and it made the world a better place. But at this point, he just has to stay on the glide path. It was kind of fun to watch the story unfold, wasn't it? Because the news was coming in. and it wasn't being fully addressed on television. I'd heard how people go to Twitter first now. You don't turn on the TV when there's a news event. You turn on Periscope and Twitter. Yeah, I'll go brush my hair. Where's the best place to get news? I'm kind of committed, at least in the political season, I'm committed to looking at the extremes. So I make sure that I look at the liberal stuff and then look at the extreme alt-right stuff and see how they're different. You know, my shaver is actually broken. I got to do one, but I haven't charged it yet. I got to go do that. Drudge. Should I check Drudge? Conservative Treehouse. Yeah, I look at that. I look at probably, there must be 10 different conservative sites that people always point me at. Then the ones that I read on my own that would not be the right-wing stuff would be, I like Business Insider. I look at newser.com to see headlines. I end up at the New York Times and the Washington Post quite often because people link it. And CNN, of course. Once in a while, MSNBC. But I find it hard to watch. I don't know why. It's still not a top trend on Twitter. Yeah, I'll check out Zero Hedge. I am badly bearded. Gateway Pundit, yeah. I can't say that I read those things. That would be saying too much. What I do is when people send me a link that's relevant to persuasion, usually, I'll click that link and I'll take a look. But I don't visit those sites unless it's somebody points to it. The ones that I look at if I'm not being pointed would be Business Insider, CNN, and then I have to sample Fox News so you get the left and the right. And by the way, let me ask you this. Most of the commercials now, it seems, on the news, both Fox and CNN, are pharmaceutical drugs. And that means that for legal reasons, they have to talk endlessly about the side effects as well as the problem that they're dealing with. I can't watch them because it's nonstop. It's just nonstop unhappiness and thinking about diseases and problems. So I switch the channel as soon as one of those commercials come on, and it's basically every commercial. So pretty much every commercial, I'm switching between Fox and CNN as soon as there's a pharmaceutical commercial. I've actually run across the room to turn off the TV or change the channel when one of those comes on. Because to me, it's like eating poison through your ears. Because if you even just get those thoughts in your head, and it's really dense, because they're saying, you're going to die from this, and your head will fall off, and your scales will form on you, and if you're coughing things up, and your lungs collapse because you've taken this drug, and they just go on and on and on with the side effects. If you listen to that, just even casually, it will affect your health. Right? You can't hear about bad health that much without the brain-body thing getting involved, and it starts to degrade your own ability to fight off colds and flus. You just Googled me. I'm an author, cartoonist. Why did you say phew? Phew. You cut the cable? Really? There's only 2 countries that allow pharmaceutical commercials? I did not know that. And I really wish that we didn't have them here. My illustration influences, my cartoonist influences. My cartoonist influences were Peanuts when I was small, Far Side, Mad Magazine cartoonists. Was Hillary memed to death? It's not impossible. Yeah, by the way, if you haven't seen my blog today, go to dilbert.com and click the blog button at the top. Has your safety been threatened? Yes. What is your net worth? You have the internet. Are Nate's polls just persuasion? They're not just persuasion, because I always protest when anybody says something like that about something I've said. Just looking at the news, they're talking about telling Islam about the culture of hate. Have you heard Trump saying that the war against ISIS is military, intelligence, cyber, and ideological warfare? So he actually has used the phrase ideological warfare. Do you know what that is? Persuasion. Persuasion. So your blog said probably over. Is the race now definitely over? I mean, now since I wrote the blog? No, I say probably, because as soon as you say 100% anything, you lose credibility. I am comfy. And then my second advice is don't believe everything you read on the internet. You were in Mensa? Yes, I was in Mensa. You have a degree in PR. Trump predicted 9/11? Maybe. No, I don't think I will be pursuing Uma. I have a girlfriend. At least I think I do. I'm not so sure today. Trump will get 430 electoral votes. You worked for Pac Bell for a while. I'm sorry. Well, don't you think that Trump and Putin are influenced by each other? And don't you think it has to work that way? Everybody's influenced by other people. All right. How are my weekends different than my weekdays? Usually the biggest difference is that I might have more plans on a Saturday night. And there are more people who are working during the week, so that I have more communication with other people. Putin is the richest man in the world. Yeah, that's probably true. Do I acknowledge that I'm brainwashed? Quick answer, yes. Long answer is we're all brainwashed. And the even longer answer is that brainwash is, a word you use when you're trying to make it sound evil. The truth is we're all persuaded, we're all influenced all the time. We're all hypnotized. How do new ideas form then? They're usually combinations of old ideas. Truth is, you support a fascist. Truth is, you're a word thinker, meaning that instead of thinking about things, you've decided that you're going to fit all observed phenomena into labels that someone's already made for you. So if you're doing that, you have abandoned even a pretense of rational thought. So if you think anybody else is a fascist, and then you're done, it's like, well, he's a fascist, I'm done. He's a racist, I'm done. It works the other way too. She's a liberal. I'm done. She is a Texan spend. I'm done. If you have anything, any label that you think is a substitute for thinking and looking at the great complexity of the decisions of our times, the many variables involved, if instead of all that, instead of, let's say, supporting a system of testing things in small so that you can, know what to roll out big, if you've abandoned all those pretenses of common sense and data and reason, and you've decided that the world is one variable or a couple that you care about, and all that matters is what labels somebody can be labeled with, then you're a word thinker. Extreme alt-right. Yeah, and that's a perfect example. For the purpose of describing something to someone, it makes sense to use labels. So if you say the liberals mostly like this idea and the conservatives mostly like this idea, that's a perfectly acceptable use of words, but there's no thinking involved. Here you're just drawing a picture for people. But then if you say this one particular conservative agrees with everything that conservatives agree with, then you're into absurdity, because it's very unlikely, right? Any one person is probably complicated, and they're all over the place. So if you say somebody is a fascist, first of all, it's the most undefined term in the world. If you look for a definition of it, you'll see it's just all over the place. It turns out it's just a thing you call people. And it's deeply subjective. She lost when she gave the alt-right speech. There's no way to know. I think that's a reasonable thing to say, and it's shocking too, isn't it? And certainly when she piled on after the alt-right speech and said that, quote, half of Trump's supporters were the basket of bad people. So I don't think she could have won after that, plus all the other things that have happened. But she might have. She might have, because it's hard to read these and talk at the same time. Subliminal messages. How do I stop myself from word thinking? Well, it's simple. Once you've decided somebody is a certain label, just look at all the characteristics of that label, and then look at the individual and ask yourself if it's confirmation bias that they fit the label on every dimension, or is it more likely that there are dimensions that they don't fit, and maybe you should treat them separately, and maybe everybody's an individual. Yeah, the basket of deplorables plus 911 were a double tap. Yeah, you don't need the headshot. The alternative to word thinking is to forget the labels as best you can and just look at every situation as a unique situation. All right, I'm going to sign off, catch up with the news, do a little Twitter, drink some more coffee. Talk to you later.